Hello, good people, and welcome back to Unit 4 on public speaking. Today we'll be talking about statements and sources. So how you make a statement in your speech and how you decide to cite that with evidence. All right, so your first type of statement that we can use is a passive statement. You want to avoid making a whole bunch of these because these typically do not portray any emotion. They're very, not necessarily calm, but they don't ask the audience to do anything. They don't incite any emotion from other people. They don't have any call to action, so there's nothing really for the audience to do. It doesn't require the audience to actively listen to what you're saying. They can just kind of tune you out. And you really don't have any audience engagement. So you're not asking them questions. You're not asking them to think. You're just kind of spitting out statements. So just because something is passive does not mean it can be delivered without passion. You can say something loudly that's a passive statement. The content of the statement is more what we're concerned with. All right, so an aggressive statement, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. So if you were looking at two sides of a coin, one will be passive and one will be aggressive. So it demands the audience's attention. You are in their face, even if you're not loud, even if your tone is not loud. The content of your message is pretty demanding. It can be kind of abrasive what you're saying. Usually an aggressive statement is like, do this right now or else, that sort of thing. It's almost like you're threatening people with what you're saying in your speech. You're asking people to take action. You're almost attacking them in some way, shape, or form if they don't take action. And it requires audience to comply with what you're saying in order to avoid whatever consequence you have laid out for them. So now an aggressive statement can be used sparingly. The entirety of your speech should not be passive. The entirety of your speech should not be aggressive. In order for you to communicate well with your audience, you might want to have a couple of aggressive statements in there about whatever call to action you want to get them to do. If your topic involves people going out and doing something as a result, that's fine. But get out of my swamp. That's sort of how an aggressive statement comes across, as like a mean and abrasive and very Shrek-like. All right, and the last one is an assertive statement. So this is a call to action. You are asking the audience to do something. You're not forcing them to do anything. You're not demanding it from them. You are calling them to do so and kind of guilt-tripping them into that. All right, you're encouraging audience participation. You're encouraging active listening. You want to make sure that they're listening to what you're saying so that they're going to do something afterwards. All right, and they do not compromise. All right, they're not really aggressive and demanding. They don't really like kick the door down with the words that they say. But assertive statements typically don't compromise, and they still persuade the audience. So you want to make sure that the majority of your statements are assertive rather than passive or aggressive. You might want to add in a couple of passive statements just to kind of smooth out the edges, but don't make the entire thing one of these three. All right, let's move on to research. All right, so let's talk about sources and claims. So if you make any claims in your speech, like let's say, for example, that my speech is about Moe's being better than Chipotle. Okay, that's my funny example. Also, this particular topic that we're doing for speeches, you don't have to choose anything that's a current event. You don't have to choose anything serious. I know your argumentative essays that we did in our previous unit were pretty serious. These don't have to be. Your topic can be kind of a little more fun-loving and joking as long as you still get to the point. So for this one, you got to make sure that your claims are backed up by actual evidence. Not like, well, I feel that Moe's is better than Chipotle because it tastes better. Okay, and are you going to cite any taste testing studies? Are you going to cite any like blind surveys that people took, that sort of thing? What type of evidence do you have to back that up? All right, just saying Wikipedia is not a legitimate source. All right, it is not a legitimate source. Use other things. Okay, instead of using the articles that Wikipedia or just referencing Wikipedia, use the actual articles that Wikipedia references. Go to those articles and see where they got their information, if they're even cited at all. All right, your claims are always stronger when you add facts. Okay, always. All right, and just be aware of any bias. It's coming from any sources. Every single news source that you will ever see in your life has some sort of bias, one way or the other. Okay. Your job is to make sure that you are doing your due diligence and making sure that your sources have the smallest amount of bias possible. Okay, so if you're looking to see what news sources have what bias, you'd like your news sources to come from here in the middle. So if we think about our political spectrum, like we discussed in our Civics Unit 3 on politics, to the left is a little bit more government, to the right is less government in their extreme beliefs. The further you get down towards the bottom on this little index, this is the less accurate info. So the further you go down, the less actual facts there are. You'd like to stay up here in this square if at all possible. ABC News, CBS, C-SPAN, NPR, the LA Times, The Hill, Wall Street Journal, Axios, that sort of thing. You want to say here, Bloomberg, Reuters, AP, NPR, that sort of thing. You want BBC even over here, okay? So the further you go to the left or the right, the more biased your news source is. So just be mindful if you're pulling something from Newsmax or you're pulling something from Truth Out, just be aware, or from CNN or from Fox, all right? If you choose one of those, just be mindful of where that bias is going to lie. All right, I think that's all I have for that. Yes. All right, so your goal for today is to make sure that you have your topic locked down and you make your claims. I'm not going to give you a specific number of claims to make. I want you to kind of be a little more free-flowing with this speech than you were with the argumentative essay, because you guys had very prescripted requirements for that. So just find me some claims about why you feel the way you feel. For example, if I said Moe's is better than Chipotle, I'd say that it was safer because of less food outbreaks at Moe's. I would say that it is more inclusive as to its menu because it has more options and that sort of thing, and that they have more options for their drink machine as well, because they have that like fancy Coke machine that has like 57,000 flavors in it. Anywho, if I were going to make those claims, I would say that I'm trying to convince my audience, even if I'm being joking or whatever, even if I'm being funny or not being funny, I'm trying to convince my audience to still feel the way that I feel, even if it's a funny subject, okay? So your goal with your speech, you have 2 to 3 minutes, and you're like, that doesn't sound like a long time. It is when you start talking, and you're like, oh, shoot, that's only 45 seconds. Make sure you're filling up enough time that you're getting your point across, okay? So your task for today is to go ahead and lock in your topic and your claims. Get your sources together, all right, because you are not going to be able to read from something if you want full credit for your speech. All right, and please let me know if you have any questions.